The Sox appear to be gaining a former All-Star and potentially losing one at the same time. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and man, we probably don't have a lot of these injury updates left for the 2024 season, which is both sad and kind of relieving at the same time, but we still have some news to talk about because today we got a couple of former All-Stars that are either making their way back from the IL, possibly heading on to the IL, and staying put where they are on the IL. So what we're going to do in the video is we're going to be breaking all this injury news down, talking about what it means for the Red Sox right now and what it could mean for the Red Sox in the future. Thank you all very much for clicking on this video. Let's get into it. Okay, so obviously, let's start with the positive news first, and the positive news here is that the Red Sox are getting Trevor Story back. In fact, they're getting Trevor Story back today. He's going to be activated for today's game against the Chicago White Sox. Now, I don't entirely know what that actual move is going to look like. If it happens at some point when this video comes out, which it definitely will, I will pin the exact move in the comment section down below. But my educated guess here, and don't quote me on this because it is just a guess, is that they end up DFAing Tyler Heineman and demoting Mickey Gasper back to AAA baseball. It would make the most sense, in my opinion, based on roster construction. But again, I'm not in that front office. I have no idea how they're going to get him back on this roster. But either way, even to the biggest Trevor Story hater, this is pretty impressive. You have to admit that. Trevor Story going down just 8 games into this season, Trevor Story getting that surgery, it really was not even really a question as to whether or not he was done for the rest of the season. So for him to put in this work, for him to get to this point where he is playing games in 2024 is unbelievably impressive, and he absolutely deserves some recognition for that. Now the question becomes, what is it going to look like when he is back? Well, he did go on a rehab assignment. It was a pretty short one. It was only 4 games down in AAA, but there were some encouraging signs. His last game, he went 4 for 5 with 4 singles, so he is making contact, which is always a good thing. In the 4 games overall, he hit .375 with an .813 OPS. I think the big concern here is, what is he going to look like timing-wise, right? Last season, he did something similar where he had a really short rehab assignment where he wanted to get back to the Red Sox as soon as possible and try and help them push towards a playoff spot. The problem was his timing just simply was not there, and he ended up, in my opinion, actually hurting this offense a bit more than he did help it, and statistically, that is fully backed up because his season last year did not look fantastic, but I do think this is a bit of a different circumstance. The big thing with last year was that Trevor Story was essentially hitting the ground running in Major League Baseball. He didn't get an offseason, he didn't get a spring training, he really didn't get an adequate rehab assignment, so all of it was sort of thrown together in a couple of weeks and threw out there on the big league diamond. This year's a little bit different, right? He got the offseason, he got the spring training, he got a couple of games in Major League Baseball. This rehab assignment wasn't so much a spring training in the middle of July. This rehab assignment was more so just to simply get his feet wet before coming back up here. So I do think there is some hope that Trevor Story ends up coming back and being productive at the plate for this Red Sox team. But I think all it comes down to is whether or not he has his timing back, whether or not he got there in those 4 games. But despite what he's going to do in the batter's box, there's one thing we do know Trevor Story's going to do for the Red Sox, and that is vastly improve their defense. Now, I know a lot of people are against Trevor Story in a Red Sox uniform, but you have to admit, any way you look at it, Trevor Story is one of the best defensive shortstops in Major League Baseball. By every single metric you can look at, that is backed up. And for the Red Sox, that also means you are now moving, say, Don Rafaela to second base. Alex Cora spoke about it yesterday. That's the plan. For the rest of the season, say, Don Rafaela is going to get a majority of the games at second base, and that's going to make this middle infield kind of deadly, right? You've got one of the best defensive shortstops in baseball at shortstop now, and you've got one of the best defensive players overall in the sport at second base. Say, Don Rafaela is a defensive wizard. He spent some time at second base. He should be comfortable enough over there to get the job done to a really above adequate level, and I think that's going to be a ton of fun to watch. On top of that, Trevor Story is kind of coming back at the perfect time. There's not a ton of pressure on the Boston Red Sox right now because I think most fans have come to the understanding that more likely than not, this Red Sox team is not making a postseason. To me, what Trevor Story coming back represents is a fully healthy 2025. And obviously you can't guarantee that, but at the same time, Trevor Story getting back here in 2024 ensures that he's going to have a normal offseason coming into 25, and to me, that's really exciting. Look, at the end of the day, when we're talking about Trevor Story, I understand that he hasn't really proven he can be a truly successful player in Boston over his time on the Red Sox so far, but Trevor Story being healthy, Trevor Story being a success story makes this Red Sox team indefinitely better, and that means I'm going to root for him every time he's on the field. He's an exciting player when he's healthy. He's an exciting player when he's right, and getting him to that point is going to be extremely important to the Red Sox success. So regardless of whether or not you like him or not, the success of Trevor Story in a Red Sox uniform is important to the Boston Red Sox, which means it should be important to you. So regardless of what you think, this is a big step for Trevor Story and possibly a big step for the Boston Red Sox. But he's not the only one who had some injury news today, so let's break down some injury news in the bullpen. Sorry for the interruption, folks. I just wanted to say if you are enjoying these videos, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button. We talk Red Sox basically every single day here. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Just simply helps these videos out a ton. It's the best way you can let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for taking a second and doing so. Again, I apologize for the interruption. Let's get back to the video. It was interesting last night. For those of us who were still watching these games, it was a safe situation for the Boston Red Sox. And the one thing in the bullpen that has remained constant this season is that if you have a safe situation, you go to Kenley Jansen. More often than not, he is going to shut the door. Unfortunately, out of the bullpen came Josh Winkowski. He did manage to get the job done, which is fantastic, but it raised a lot of questions. Why isn't Kenley Jansen the one shutting the door for the Boston Red Sox? So the media asked him about that last night, and he very quickly said to the media before leaving that he's not pitching again until a lat issue that he's dealing with calms down. Now, it doesn't entirely sound like this is going to be an IL stint or anything, but his exact quote to the media, again, very quickly was, "I won't pitch until this calms down." They then asked him about his rough outing, and he simply said, "I'll keep that to myself," which is a really ominous thing to say. To be honest with you, Kenley's probably going into one of his last, if not his last, free agencies ever. He's probably not coming back to the Boston Red Sox, and with where the Red Sox are at in the 2024 season, I wouldn't totally be surprised if we don't see Kenley Jansen pitch again for the Red Sox to finish out this year, especially if the Red Sox keep pushing themselves out of contention. At some point, Kenley's got to sit down and be like, hey, what's the best situation for me? What's the best situation for the team? And how do I make both of those work while also figuring out a way to get a contract next year? Because Kenley, again, older, injury history, not as successful as he's been in the past, is trying to get to a team next year and play Major League Baseball. If an injury happens at the end of this season, it could be part of a prevention in being able to do that. So I wouldn't be totally surprised if Kenley ends up on the IL and ends up not pitching for the Red Sox again. Now, again, this is just simply speculation. I'm not making any declarations. I'm not saying I heard this from anybody. This is just purely me thinking about Kenley's situation at an individual level and understanding what he may have to do to get himself to play in 2025. There's probably a higher chance that he ends up back in a Red Sox uniform at some point this year. I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that takes him about a week or so to figure out, maybe not even an IL stint type stuff, just sort of keeping him off the field. Maybe that's why they brought up Luis Guerrero in order to be able to sort of supplement some of that back end of the bullpen stuff. But I do want to put that idea out there because I do think it's possible we don't see Kenley Jansen again. And speaking of bullpen arms, we have another one to talk about because another former All-Star closer in Liam Hendriks is kind of staying put in where his rehab assignment is. For a while, it was looking like he was really making his way back to the Boston Red Sox. It looked like, hey, this could be a legitimate thing here where Liam Hendriks is back possibly by the end of next week. Well, he did hit a little bit of a minor setback. The plan this week was to go Liam Hendriks 2 back-to-back games and then sort of feel it out from there, right? It could have been possibly the end of his rehab assignment. Unfortunately for Liam Hendriks, something set him back where he wasn't able to make those back-to-back appearances. Now, I wasn't able to find the exact reason as to why he had that setback. My assumption, again, just an assumption, possibly have to do with some arm soreness, having not really thrown in-game pitches for a very long period of time. Plus, coming back from Tommy John surgery, there's probably going to be some soreness there. Despite the setback, though, Liam Hendriks still maintains the idea that he's going to come back in 2024, and it is still absolutely possible. You've got a few weeks left. Even getting him into a couple of games here at the major league level could set him right for the 2025 season. One thing I do think is really interesting, though, from his session with the media before yesterday's game is the fact that he basically openly admitted that while he believes still that his stuff will be effective at the big league level during the 2024 season, again, when he believes he makes his way back to this team, he admits that it probably isn't going to be the stuff that we are expecting from him until 2025, that it's going to take the offseason most likely to get him back into that groove. And to me, that's a little bit concerning, right? I wouldn't want to throw Liam Hendriks out here, especially with where the Red Sox are at this season, to potentially hurt himself again with diminished stuff, trying to overcompensate for the fact that he doesn't have the true velocity on his fastball or the true movement on his off-speed pitches. If that's the case, I really wouldn't be opposed to the Red Sox sitting him down and being like, look, you could still do your rehab games, but we're going to start implementing your offseason regimen. We're going to start trying to get you ready instead of coming back to the Red Sox for a truly normal offseason. So by 2025, that stuff is prime Liam Hendriks stuff, because when that stuff is good, he's one of the best closers in baseball. But again, I would be super nervous about him trying to overcompensate for not having his elite stuff and then hurting himself again and really putting in jeopardy a really big piece of this Red Sox bullpen for 2025. Look, if he keeps rehabbing and his stuff feels good and the Red Sox are comfortable and he understands that he doesn't have to overcompensate for it, I'm perfectly fine with him coming back. But I do think that's a conversation the Red Sox need to have, because at this point, what is it going to change for this Red Sox team, right? It's not going to push them into a playoff spot. So what's the purpose of getting Liam Hendriks back here beside getting his feet wet and pushing him into a normal offseason for the next year? If that's the true reason, I'm sitting him down. The other guy I did want to mention really quickly, because I have been getting some comments about whether or not he's going to be good, is Lucas Giolito for 2025. The first thing you got to know is that he does technically have a player opt-out at the end of the season. So there is a minuscule, and I mean tiny, chance that he's not here with the Red Sox in 25, but I would say there's a 99.9999999% chance that he ends up in a Red Sox uniform next year. And when that does happen, he will be full go for the 2025 season. Recently, an article came out that he has started throwing again. He's been doing long toss and stuff like that. And recently, the plan has been by this month, by the end of this month, to get him on the mound and into an official throwing program. So this offseason, again, the more important part here, this offseason, he has a very, very normal routine and very, very normal come up to get himself ready for 2025. So yes, Lucas Giolito is still injured. Yes, he will most likely be here for the 2025 season. And yes, he should be full go and on a normal schedule by the time the 2025 season begins, more specifically, probably training camp and spring training. So those are the injury updates for the Boston Red Sox at this point. I think the most exciting one is obviously the fact that Trevor Story is coming back. Whether you like him, whether you not like him, having him back on this team is a really big step in getting him good and healthy for 2025. And who knows, maybe he is a spark plug for the Red Sox. They're not totally out of it yet. Maybe he does come back and absolutely light a fire under these guys' asses, and the offense comes back to life a bit. At the bare minimum, it would be exciting to watch this team play normal baseball again for the last couple of weeks of this season. Kenley scares me a bit. Again, I still don't think it's going to end up being a long-term thing, just something to pay attention to. And at this point with Liam Hendriks, I'm okay with shutting him down for the rest of the year, but that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think? What do you think about all of this injury news? Which one stands out to you, and what are you most paying attention to of these notes for the Boston Red Sox? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Simply helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these videos, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.